Hey, so this is going to be a very quick video. I've already done the job, but I thought I'd just share the process. So if you find that your coolant's ever leaking, dropping, you can smell coolant in the engine bay, obviously the best thing to do is an inspection. Now, I do have this little mirror thing. I didn't actually need it for this job, so there seems to be a few usual culprits other than the water pump. The plastic flanges on these engines tend to become brittle over time. Now, I have previously changed the heater core flange, so you'll see just in there, let me get that to focus. So just in there's two hoses. There's actually three hoses, one at the bottom, one at the top. One at the top has two connectors, one at the bottom just has the one connector. I did have to change the one at the top. It's not a hard job. It looks like it's in a difficult spot. Essentially, you just remove this guy, give yourself a little bit of room to get the hand in there. There's a foil shield that just clips off. There's a little button there. You unclip it, and then there's a quick release. You'll see on these that they have quick releases at the top. I can't get that to focus, but you'll see that metal. And it's silver on the black. Essentially you just pop those up and then you can pull the flanges straight out. Now this time my coolant was dropping. I couldn't see any coolant up the back here, but where I could see coolant was pooling all over the gearbox down here. I'm not sure if you can see, there's a bit of pink in the background. So down there was a massive pool of coolant. Now, I'm just going to grab a screwdriver so I can point. Yeah, so let me just get this lined up for you. There we go. So right down here, right there, you see this little hole thingy? Well, that is part of a plastic flange. And that plastic flange attaches to this hose here. Okay? That top hose. There's a top hose, and then there's a bottom hose. Now that bottom hose is a three-way. Okay? So, what I can see is that plastic flange down in there. It connects straight to the engine block. It's a bit of a doozy. Okay? That's it there. That plastic flange right there. It connects directly to the engine block. I could see it was weeping on the block, just there, just above that little black plastic hole that you can see. To the left of that, I could see coolant weeping. Okay, so you'd think, yep, mechanic job. Look, probably is, but if you've got an hour of time and you want to save yourself the money, it's not a biggie. Okay, so you remove your airbox. Basically for the airbox, there's just one bolt in the back here. Okay, take that single bolt out. You take these two screws out. You pop this part off the air intake. This just comes off, this part. Once that's off and this rear bolt is out, the whole airbox is held in by two rubber grommets, okay, rubber clips. But before you can pull it out, you remove this guy, quick connect, remove the mass airflow sensor, and then you're going to want to get yourself a pair of these to remove this. Okay, you could probably do it with pliers, but once it's off, If you release it in the wrong location, it'll spread really wide. You will not be able to get it back on without pliers. With pliers. You need one of these guys. Okay, and they're designed specifically to sit on these clamps. Super cheap, probably I think $10 for these two. One's got an angle, one's straight. So you pop that off. Once you've popped this off and you pull that hose back, you can just lift the airbox out. You do need to twist the airbox anti-clockwise so that this part goes under this rubber hose here. You lift up on the airbox and the whole thing will come out. Then you've got yourself a lot of space. From there, it is literally just 2 screws. However, there are 2 clamps. There's a clamp that goes onto the flange. It's the top hose. You'll need to access that once the airbox is out of the way. Very easy to access. Undo that clamp, loosen it, and remove it back. So, as I was saying, I just got interrupted. So, there's a top hose. Clamp off. Wiggle the clamp back. Wiggle the hose off. If the hose doesn't come off, get one of those little pig tools. Just gently put it under the end of the hose to give it a bit of a crack. Crack the seal, and then you wiggle it off. Now, you can't get to the other screw, the lower screw, without taking part of that 3-way hose off. Now, to get the 3-way hose off, I actually released it there. Okay, so you can see it there, but the hose comes from the gearbox cooler, and then it routes through to whatever, I don't know, but essentially there was a clamp down here. I took that clamp off and wiggled off the front part of the 3-way hose. Okay, once that was done, you can depress it, lower it, you can push it down just enough to gain access to the 2 screws that hold the plastic flange on. From there, you just remove the screws, pull the flange directly out towards the right or towards the side, and from there just inspect the inside surface of the engine block. It should be very smooth, but if there is any, the first time I did the job, the flange had completely degraded and broken to pieces as I was pulling it out. I mean, that's why it was leaking, it was all cracked, so I did have to pull out lots of little bits of plastic, and I cleaned up the inside with just a kitchen scourer, not one of the metal ones, one of the non-stick surface safe scourers. I wouldn't recommend using steel wool on your aluminium engine block. So just one of those green scourers. Just gave it a very soft scuff on the inside until it was, ran my finger around the inside, it was very smooth, easy as. Now, before you put the new flange in, you do lubricate it with a little bit of pure coolant or coolant, and then you line it up just so that you can see that the holes are going to sit in. I actually, I believe from memory, I put one of the screws in, held it with my hand, with the finger, and wiggled in the flange until I could see it was the screw was going to sit with the hole, and then just pushed it directly in. Once that flange is being pushed in, you don't want to twist it clockwise or counterclockwise. You don't want to crimp the rubber O-ring, so it's really good to line up those holes before you push the flange straight in, which is why putting the screws through the flange holes really helps. So just push it straight in, and then put the top and bottom screws in on that flange. Actually, you can probably see one down there. It's a little bit dark, but anyway, there's a screw down the bottom and there's a screw up the top. Put the screws in and then alternate top and bottom to snug it home. Don't just do one all the way. Snug both of them home, finger tight. You will need a low range torque wrench. Ideally, it's only 9 Newton meters. Well, according to Google, you're putting a steel bolt into an aluminium head. You do not want to over tighten it. So look, a low range torque wrench, if you can borrow one from a friend, or just buy yourself one. They're super handy. I bought mine I think nearly 20 years ago, and it served me well. So yeah, essentially once that flange is back in place, you just wiggle the two hoses back into place, loosen the clamps, slide them back into place, and then pop your airbox back in, bolt the airbox back down, and then put all this back on and these two screws back on. So it's literally 1, 2, 3 screws. Sorry, 1, 2 screws, the bolt, and 2 more screws. This is a 5 screw job and a 3 clamp job. You've got to put that back in and obviously connect these two back again. And then once that's done, you will have released a whole bunch of coolant that would have dropped onto the engine. So you do want to be doing this in an area where it doesn't matter if coolant leaks on the floor, which I obviously mopped up later on with handy towels. You're going to see that your coolant reservoir would have dropped a lot, so you open it up, top it up with coolant, and run the engine. Run the engine with the lid off. You'll see your coolant returning through this hose, which is the return line. You'll see the coolant returning. As you rev the engine, you'll see it pump faster. Initially, you'll see a whole bunch of air bubbles come through. That's the highest point in the whole system, so in theory, if you just let the engine run to operating temperature, you let the thermostat open, you should flush all air out of the system. So I just let it run right up until the fans kicked in, which is 105 degrees Celsius on the coolant lines on the thermostat in this car. That's when the fans kick in. That's peak temperature for the coolant at normal operating. I think fans are on max at 108 degrees Celsius on the coolant. So I flushed all the air out, and look, it's not leaking. I've been driving it for a few days now, yeah, I'm really happy with that job. I thought that was a good little win, something you'd look at and think, yeah, looks really tricky, have to take it to the shop, but just with a little bit of time you can do that job yourself. And as I say, you can also do that job there, these two at the back. If you see leaking up the back, I would suggest giving that a shot as well. So yeah, good luck. If you attempt the job, let me know, and if you have any other tips that you come across when you're doing the job, let everyone know. Thank you. So I actually did keep the part. I thought I'd thrown it. Anyway, so when we were looking down in the engine bay, you were looking at this hole here. And as you can see, there's just 2 bolts that hold it into place. This part here is nothing. Solid in there. I'm not sure what that's for. This is the way the hose attaches. So this sits in the engine like that. Okay, top and bottom bolts. This little tube is nothing. So the reason I brought this out is just to show you that this rubber grommet, the rubber O-ring, completely flat. As you can see, it's completely gone to the shape of the plastic, and that was just letting coolant through in that location there. Now, probably wondering, why replace the whole part and not just get an O-ring? Well, that's a good point. You could probably just buy the right O-ring, but finding the right O-ring, the right rubber specification, going to be tricky. So I just went ahead and bought the part. I think the part was about 30 Australian dollars or something like that, including postage. So yeah, not expensive. And the other thing was, I wasn't sure if I had torqued it too much when I put it on last time, possibly bending this plastic. But as you can see, that plastic is super solid. So I don't think you could damage it by torquing it down too much. So yeah, you just basically pop that out, put the new one in, put the hose back on. Easy job.